with momentum. I changed both Griffin over G2 in the last game and Griffin over G2 in tiebreaker before those games happened. I was I was happy but at the same time a little sad. It was kind of a hedging of the bet. I went back to my original pre-group prediction, as you can tell here. Before we played a single game, perfect. Basically, 5-1 for Griffin, 5-1 for G2. I expected both to split. C9 2-4, HKA 0-6. Had that exactly right. The only thing I had wrong is in the pre-groups. I assumed, G2 was going to beat Griffin in the tiebreaker, and unfortunately for me, that's how my pick'ems look as well. So I was kind of hoping that even though I picked Griffin down here, because Griffin looked, we'll talk about it in more detail down the line, but just right now, Griffin looked unbeatable today. When they played against Cloud9 and how they played against HKA in 2 of the first 3 games, and how G2 HKA was still, I was like, okay, whatever, I'll still pick G2. But the way then G2 played against Cloud9, I know it was a fun game that didn't really matter as well. Like, the way they crushed Cloud9 at the beginning and kind of choked a bit, I'm like, this Griffin team's probably going to beat G2, aren't they? And that's like when I made the official change. I was like, okay, I'm actually going to take Griffin. I'm going to go back onto my original predictions where I had Griffin G2 splitting originally, because after the first week I changed it to G2 going 6-0, but my gut was correct, and I thought that they were gonna split originally. But like, man, Griffin looked unbeatable today. Also, if you notice, my beard actually it was probably on the other podcast, but my beard has been shaved. It looks a lot cleaner now, at least, so that's good. But it's not. I do like the big dwarf thick beard. anyway, let's continue. We are super late today, by the way. I was really basically forced. I have to do this podcast because it's Worlds. It's very, as you know, I'm late usually most podcasts because I'm a terrible person. but not just that. If you've watched for a long time, you know Friday podcast and Saturday podcast very hard for me to do because some of my good friends are able to get on Discord only on weekends sometimes, and or like on weekdays they have to get off by like 8 or 9 or so to get ready for work and stuff. So always like to spend time on the weekends as much as I can hanging out with them. So that's just the main reason why Friday podcasts sometimes don't happen or are really late. But it is World, so I feel like I had to get this podcast out, especially with such a big Group C coming up. So we will quickly go over the games today because it's look at that, I have a freaking G2. A G2 background right now. I download, if you haven't seen before, I just basically downloaded every single background for League of Legends on their like background or their desktop background thingy that they have. And I was like, I don't know which one I want. I'm just going to download every single one. And so I just get random backgrounds all the time. And it keeps it spicy. I like it. I like the constant changes. But yeah, we're going to do very quick recaps of the games because for the most part, because it's already midnight, and for the most part, the games did not matter a whole lot today, except for we'll break down a few of the games that actually did matter. There was really only 3 games that mattered today, and it was the first one, the last one, and the tiebreaker. So we'll go over all of them, but there won't be much big breakdown per se. And we'll talk more about Group C and how it's going to play out. And then if Group C is the one, if Group C and D are the 2 groups that I am absolutely going to stream. The reason we didn't stream today is because I got up about 5 minutes before C9 Griffin, so I was like half asleep. So I'm like, I'm just gonna wait for this game to be over with first. And then it was over in like 20 minutes, so I was still only 25 minutes away from being like completely asleep by the time the game ended. And I was so depressed as an NA fan at that point with how bad C9 performed. Granted, we didn't realize how Griffin was going to be today, so that made it feel a little bit better, but it was still very bad. It was what, 20. Hell, let's just look at the matches right now. Yeah, it's 21-1. Like this was right here was when you knew the game. You knew C9 season was over. Like this was bad. This was bad. This was bad. 3 kills in Infernal. We still have a shot with this team comp though. I wasn't giving up faith yet. I was like, this is a little rough, but 2K gold lead is manageable. The second they lost 4 people and then gave up the Rift Herald in the pit, and when their wombo combo started with Niski getting caught right here, and then Galio and Shen both ulting on him, but at the same time Niski stopwatch, so the Shen shield was completely pointless. All of Griffin had backed away from Niski because he had already stopwatched, so the Galio knockup didn't matter. Oh, and at the same time, Svenskaren's going in with his Nocturne all over here, and instead of backing him up with a Shen Shield and Galio for the CC and to bring a Tank Boy there with you, you put it on the Kale and ended up losing all four people outside of Sneaky. Every single person died. So that was it. Like, even my brother, big C9 fan, he works night shift now at his new job, and he stayed up. Like, he got home at 7:30 in the morning. And he's like, "I'm gonna stay," because usually he goes like pretty much right to bed after. He's like, "I'm gonna go stay up an extra hour, 30 minutes, so I can watch Team or C9 live, and I can get I can believe in my team." And he went to bed after that play. He literally didn't watch the rest of the game. He's just like, "I'm done." Which, I mean, was a good choice because then they immediately got the Herald. I think he bet them went out the Herald, but then they got two towers with that. They got a Dragon, and then they won a 3-for-1. Sneaky did get a kill on the Elise. They did pick off Elise with their Wombo combo. It worked. They shut down the Elise and got it on Sneaky, and then immediately followed that up by dying for all four people and giving up two towers. So that's not a trade you usually want to make. They lost a tower, lost 5-for-none, and gave up a mountain, gave up a Baron and another tower, and then lost 5-for-none and gave up the game. And that was it. C9 season was not over because G2 had to go 0-3 to 0-4 if you got the tiebreaker, and C9 would have still been able to make groups or make it out of groups. Unfortunately, the chances of that, as we talked in the last podcast, were like winning the lottery for that to happen, and it didn't. It didn't happen. Surprise, I know. So C9 essentially were eliminated on this game. Very ugly game to go out on. 0-5 for Licorice, 0-4 for Svenskaren, 0-5 for Niski, 1-3 for Sneaky, 0-4 for Zazel. They picked their dive type comp, didn't execute it at all properly, and for that, C9 got a big fat F for me at Worlds this year, which is very sad to say as they are now the highest ranked team from my pre-Worlds power rankings to be eliminated, and the highest team to have a failure as well. There's now two of my B tier teams had failures in the past team on the B tier, which B tier, for if you didn't know, was to get out of groups, to at least get out of groups. J team did not get out of groups and they went 2-4, but they played. To be honest, I'm giving J team a C. They crushed Fun Plus Phoenix. They beat Splice once, but losing the Splice in that second game, dropping a game to Gam, that's really what cost them, and I think they could have done better, especially with the group they were at. So they're only going to get a C. I'm still going to pass them for taking down Fun Plus Phoenix, who I thought was unbeatable, and I still have as the second best team in the tournament, even though I originally had them first. I have them at I have SKT first, Fun Plus Phoenix 2, RNG 3, Griffin 4, G2 5 now. Like G2 was I mean, we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it when we get to it. But man, that I have some interesting worries about that. It could be very good for them. It could be very, very good for them. But hopefully, at least, because it's a shame to see a team like that do so poorly. When they faced HKA, though, they did totally fine. The HKA actually had a lot of control early on. Again, Crash, phenomenal. I thought HKA put a very respectable 0-6. That was probably one of the best. It was 0-6, but it was a very respectable one. This is what I mean by them passing with a B, even though they were in the F tier. That is, to be fair, just their goal was to have fun at Worlds in F tier. F tier was for fun. So making it all the way to the group stage from the wild card, even though they were a first seed, and then going 0-6 was totally okay. I thought they passed. They made it. You can argue that they had a very lucky group in wildcard for their first group, and then they had a very lucky playoff game in wildcard, which is true. That is a fact. But you got to play a team. They didn't pick that team. It fell in their lap, and they took full advantage of it. A lot of teams don't take advantage of those type of presents that they get, and they did it. And then they came into a very hard group, probably arguably the second, possibly third hardest group. Like Group A and D are equal in my opinion in difficulty. I think that group, until Griffin really stepped up, to be honest, I thought that. But at the same time, you can argue that C9 played way under. So at the same time, Group D has three very competitive teams where realistically, at the end of Group A, since we're done with it, there was only 2 competitive teams in this entire one. So is that really that hard a group if there's only 2 of them that are in the 2 people make it out? Of course, it's not that hard from that sense, unless you're C9 or HKA in that sense as well. But I think personally, I think it's when you have 3 very competent groups in a or teams in a group that makes a group very challenging. And I originally thought C9 was going to step up to the plate for that, like they always have, but unfortunately, it did not happen this year. Yeah, and then we had Griffin versus HKA. Griffin just smashed. I mean, HKA hung in there. There was a fantastic play at the beginning by 3Z on the gameplay. Fantastic outplay. It looked like I was watching Impact up there with just a 2v1 double kill for him, and it was totally fine. And he crushed it. But after that, I mean, Crash got the rift, and then the rest of it was pretty much all Griffin from there on out. They just really stepped it up. Viper had literally 0 kills, but was unkillable. At one point, Medic mentioned, and when it was like right around here, all these kills, he was like, "Man, Viper is 1v4ing them," and I was like, "Yuumi players' lives matter too." Okay, Yuumi was on Viper the whole time, doing all of the real damage. Viper was just there absorbing damage for the Yuumi. Oh man. Next game was G2 versus C9, and G2 for the most part crushed this game. There was a little hiccups every now and then, as you can see, like here they gave up 3 kills in Infernal, and then here was 2 kills in there. Then like just multiple times around here, they were just giving up. They were giving up advantages that they shouldn't have. As you can see, the little gold like little spikes up here, like 6.48k, like a 2 gold like deficit, like. It still is a deficit, so it was still a blowout all the way around. It was just kind of sloppy. Like Mickey probably hit like 2 hooks all game, like maybe a little bit more, but it felt like it was like he missed almost every single hook possible. Like Caps was crushing on Syndra, but really Wonder wasn't doing too hot on the Rise. I didn't feel like. I mean, who did he do more damage? He did 16k. He did more damage than Perks, but it really felt like Rise and Yankos and Mickey, or not Rise, Wonder, Yankos, and Mickey really weren't playing exceptional. And it was really Caps and Perks kind of just carrying the team. And yeah, it just wasn't. It wasn't pretty. And in my gut, I'm like, Griffin has looked fantastic in their first 2 games. Like outside of that one GP double kill up top lane was the only mistake I saw all day from Griffin. Like, and it ended up being like, so that's why I had originally changed it to Griffin to beat G2 both times, because I'm seeing like G2 playing a little sloppy against HKA, nothing too bad, and then a little sloppy against C9. They started out great, but then as you can see all those kills there on the bottom, but then like they just kind of like dropping kills, just getting caught out of positions that they shouldn't be. Like all the, I mean, this is normal G2 stuff. It happens with G2. They're just so good that they overplay it, but like there's something in me that was like, Griffin dropped, essentially, if you didn't hear the news, Griffin fired their GM. There's a lot of controversial news about him. We talked about it last podcast, I believe. With him, a lot of bad stuff with that GM, basically. And it all came out, and eventually, and it came out today that the company has fired him. And people might mock this. I think that had a massive impact on the players' mental. Like imagine, just like, you got to remember, this game is a job for them. This is their job. This is what they do for a living. And so put it into your own perspective. If you're working and you have a job and your boss is the worst, like a terrible, terrible person, like not like, you hate him. He's like always breathing down your neck, always like screaming and yelling, very manipulative, like all this stuff. And then you go to work, you wake up to go to work the next day, and he's fired. And like he's gone. You don't have to worry about him ever again in your life. You know that? Just imagine that sense of relief and just like all that stress leaving your head about like that kind of boss. And that's kind of, I feel like, how the Griffin players reacted to it in a sense. Like I felt like that just released so much pressure that they had been building up, and so much negative like tension on the team and all that. And because that was gone, they were able to just play freely, like how they're supposed to. Like these guys are amazing. All these players are so good, and they really showed that talent today. And I originally I was like, it is against just I was fighting back and forth because like it is just Cloud9 who's had like the worst worlds they've had ever, and it's just it's only the second time they've missed groups or missed getting out of groups, and HKA I had them like what have I had them in my tier list, the 22nd best team coming into Worlds. Like I'm like it's just those two teams, maybe it's just those, but I still in my gut I went back to my original pre-groups. I'm like okay, I'm gonna pick Griffin. I hadn't picked the tiebreaker yet at all when I said that originally. I just had picked Griffin. I was thinking, okay, well I did. I think I did pick the tiebreaker like halfway through. I think I picked the tiebreaker halfway through the game, but I originally switched back to Griffin for game 6, and then and then we had C9 versus HK, but we don't need to talk about it. There was almost a massive throw there. As you can see, it's just C9 winning, and then not or C9 losing, then winning pretty handily. They shouldn't lose, and then they're and then they won the game still, even though they were up 2K, but the game ended so much that the graph didn't end. It was just like immediate C9 loses team fight, C9 loses, or C9's winning, 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 loses team fight, loses Baron, loses a bunch of towers, wins a team fight somehow. Okay, and then just won through it. Like they burnt so HKA burnt so much on Blabber, and he stopwatched it, and then just immediately they had nothing left to save their Jinx and their Rise, and they just got popped. And then once Jinx and Rise are done, this comp does nothing to stop anyone else. Anyway, that game wasn't important because we saw Deathly Doga 1-0 at Worlds and first time at Worlds and he won a game, so feels good for him. But pointless game. uh, yeah, and then we saw Griffin versus G2 in the first game. Yeah, as you can tell, kind of started out slow, which worked in G2's favor. Honestly, like I'm like, okay, this is. I was getting a little worried about my pick. You had Gragas Yasuo in the bot lane. You had Rise scaling. Rise outscales Chovy. Gragas Yasuo is kind of equal scaling with Kaisa and Shen. I'd say, but with possibility of the Wombo combo more effective for perks. And then Kale obviously super outscales Jace. So the fact that there's no kills for the first 10 minutes of the game essentially, and the only thing that's happened is Griffin gets a Ocean Drake, but that Ocean Drake was a very clean play by Griffin, and they almost killed Yankos on it as well. It was very, very clean. It was a big, like, just positioning matchup here. Yankos tried to steal it, missed it by like that much, and got out with like a sliver of health left. So he did get out, and he was fine there, but it was an Ocean Drake nonetheless, and that was it. And then they finally did get Yankos with the first blood. And then all of a sudden they got Rift Herald off of that kill on Yankos. And they got Yankos again. And all of a sudden Tarzan is snowballing on Kiana. And then you got a bunch of kills here. And all of a sudden, like, Griffin hit this like second gear where every mistake G2 was making was simply punished. They got a kill on Chovy, which is kind of funny considering Chovy's so difficult to kill, especially on the Akali. But when they got the kill, they gave up the Infernal. And then losing the Infernal, and then they got killed again. And you're like, oh wow, Griffin is like giving it to G2 right now. It was only a 2K gold lead at that time at 15 minutes, but you're like, man, this is like, so you still believe G2 has it. You know, they're a little shaky. They've given up 2 kills, but we've seen them like against HKA just flip on a switch once you hit 25 minutes and just dominate. So being down 2Ks really doesn't matter too much with a team comp with Kale, Rise, Yasuo, and stuff. All these champions scale really well late, where they have Kiana, Jace, Akali. These champions aren't as good at scaling. Kali's okay, but and Kiana could be okay with the playmaking, but like not they're not great. And Jace isn't very good at scaling at all. But then just every mistake G2 made was punished until finally we had a team fight, and it was a 5-for-1. It wasn't close. Like it originally started with just picking off Yankos on G2, and then they immediately got Tarzan after that. I think it was for Yankos and Mickey got killed, and Tarzan got killed on Griffin. So you're like, okay, at least you got the jungler so they can't do the Baron. But then Griffin made the very proactive play that instead of trying to go for the Baron without their jungler and risk maybe like the Kale and the Rise. No, because yeah, it was just Kale and Rise left. So it was a 3-for-1. And instead of trying to risk it for a 4v2 in the pit with a Rise able to do the spell flux all in the pit and Kale being able to ult him, they kind of just immediately turned and killed Kale right there. They got the what was it? I believe it was no, yeah, the Kaisa W hit the kill at max range and immediately teleported in, was able to wipe out the kill with Shen coming in as well. And then you had them chase down Caps, killed the Rise, and then with Rise and Kale down, you only had Perks, Mickey, and Jankos coming back up while the Baron was already half dead, and you had all four members of Griffin back up and Tarzan coming alive as well. And then they just couldn't get to the Baron in time. And then once they got the Baron, with the amount of siege they had and just with where they were in the game, they just simply outpushed them, got the inhib, took 3 kills, and then you're like, oh well, they backed off. They took 2 inhibs, and then they kind of backed off for the reset, collected their gold, bought their third items on champion. Yeah, like they got their third item here. Only 2 items on Kali really. 2 items here and 3 items here. No, that's two and a half basically. So they were finishing their third 2.5 3 item power spike, which is like the max power spike for Jace, like the best point in the game he's gonna be. Kiana, same thing. If she can get that, like this is their power spike. Kaisa obviously has more power spike, 6 item power spike. But yeah, they used that power spike effectively. Immediately went 3 for 1 or 3 for none. Took a tower, and then all of a sudden it was just perks and Wonder left, and they couldn't handle it. They could not absolutely keep up with it because it was a 12k gold lead at this point. There's no way you're coming back from that at all, usually. And just this was about as big as a blowout as the game Griffin had against C9 earlier in the day when we just gave Griffin. I think I just gave G2 a lot more benefit of the doubt. I didn't call it over by 10 minutes like I did with C9 because C9 had been playing such a bad tournament all year and at Worlds so far, and G2 was 5-0 at this point. Like they had not lost a game at the tournament. They've looked sloppy in quite a few of the games, but that's just kind of the G2 style. They're kind of like the IG a little bit, where they look sloppy early and then they turn it on and they stop messing around and they focus and they beat you just off pure talent. And it didn't happen in this game. They fell too far behind, and I'm like, okay. Mental reset, little bit of a wake up call for G2. Like Griffin is a team to be taken seriously. Like this was regular season Griffin. This is not playoff Griffin where they get 3-0 or 3-1 by SKT. Like they're 1-9 against SKT in the playoffs, and or no, they're 1-9 in finals because didn't they get 3-0 by KT as well? Like let me see, LCK 2018 summer. Let's see. I'm actually very curious. I don't remember off the top of my head. Playoffs. No, it was a 3-2. Okay, it was a 3-2. They fought hard. Okay, I was thinking it was a 3-0. So in my head, I think they got the reputation of choking in at finals because they lost to KT, and then they got 3-0'd in spring by SKT, and then they got 3-1'd in summer by SKT. So you're like, man, they've really choked in the playoffs. They've been to the finals 3 times in a row as the #1 team in Korea coming in to the playoffs, and they've choked and lost every single time. And so you don't expect much from Griffin. They're kind of like a CLG type style team where when the pressure's on, you expect them to collapse, kind of thing, which kind of sucks because they're such good players. You see it in the regular season. You're like, this is the best team in Korea during the regular season, and they've shown for the last 3 years. True, it is. They weren't as dominant this year as they have been in the last 2 splits, or in the summer split, I should say, since compared to summer 2018 and spring 2019, they were very dominant. In spring 2019, I assume they were the best team in the world, but again, they choked the SKT at the end of the day, and then instead we finally see them on the international stage, though. They have qualified, and this is in game 1 against G2, their very first game. Didn't look good again. And I'm like, man, it's just these top teams just get to them. They really, really get to them. And I don't know what to do. And it seems like that could have been the pressure. It really could have been the pressure from the GM that he was pushing on them, made them collapse against these high elite teams. So I'm very curious to see. Now they're coming in as the 1 seed, and G2's coming in as the 2 seed. Let's talk about that, though. Yeah, I guess the tiebreaker game, almost as big as a blowout as the first, just as big as a blowout as the first one. How much did the first one? I'm gonna actually pull that back. How long did the first one take compared to the second one? Because it's not great. The first one took 27 minutes. This one took 28 minutes. Yeah, took him an extra minute 30, and that's because they have the Ornn instead of the Jace up top. They picked G2, ran it back with the Kiana, Jace, and Shen. Like the first 3 picks were instantly the same picks that Griffin used to just beat them 20 minutes before. So I was like, man, that's a little. It felt salty to me to take all the picks that they did and just use them against them. So Griffin takes Xayah Rakan. Great bot lane. They picked the Galio mid. Don't agree with that one, but it worked. And then you take Galio Rakane is a good combo. To be fair, it's a very very good combo. But I just don't like the Galio pick personally. I don't think it's like as bad as like say Volibear support or something like that, or AD Cannon, which I still hate. But it's just I still don't think Galio's worth it to play anymore without the taunt flash personally. But it worked in this game. This was one of the very successful games of it. And Tarzan just popped off. And Yankos went 0-6, Wonder 0-4, Mickey 1-7. Look at that. Boom, boom, boom. You have 1-17 in that final game for your three players. All three, Wonder, Yankos, and Mickey, have underperformed massively at Worlds so far. Caps has performed way above expectations, I believe, as a lot of people had him coming in as the worst G2 player. I mean, and by worst G2 player, I still mean a top 20 player at Worlds. G2 and Fun Plus Phoenix, I think both. You could argue that they have 10 of the top 20 players at Worlds on those two teams. Like, they're that elite. So seeing not only Wonder, Yankos, and Mickey, you're seeing Crisp and LWX kind of struggle as well. I think Gimgoon and Doinby have been fine. Tien a little bit himself. You've had about 6 of those players really, really struggle. I don't think Tien has struggled that much. I think Brian is getting in my head that Tien's been struggling because Brian watched 2 games of Fun Plus Phoenix, and one of them was the game against Splice. It was like the only bad game Tien's really had at Worlds. So Brian has been tilting me off the face of the earth in the last day, like the last 24 hours, telling me that Tien is one of the worst junglers he's ever seen at Worlds and stuff, and I'm like triggered. He's like, that's how a real jungler plays with Tarzan today, which is true. I mean, I did have Tarzan as the best jungler in the world coming in. I thought that Yankos was the third best jungler, and that's been proven wrong so far. I think I've really underestimated Clid, but I think I put Tien as the second best, and I still agree with that one. I just need to see him perform a little bit better. I need to put Clid in there, though. I put Canyon in there. I think I should replace Canyon with Clid because Clid's been playing out of his mind, as of the rest of SKT. But yeah, this game, same exact thing. Complete blowout. Like, look at these scores. 9-2. 9-0. Like, you're not winning. You're not winning this game. I mean, it started with an immediate first blood on Mickey. Then they killed Mickey again with Yankos. And they killed Wonder up top. Then they killed Mickey and Yankos. And then they killed Yankos. And then they killed Mickey. You see a pattern here? It takes until about 18 minutes before Caps and Perks die. Before they die, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kills have been on. It's 8-0 by the time they die. And then when they died, it made it 11-0. And then it was all of a sudden 15-2. They got 2 kills on a team fight, and it was like, oh, quick. But they had lost so much already before they had died. They were already down 3K gold, and then once they did die, they dropped down all the way down to 5K deficit. And Griffin just simply outplayed him, and the consequences for this are massive for G2. Because as we look over here, Fun Plus group, we're gonna go with a hypothetical here. I know hypotheticals are kind of dumb to do, but we're going to do it. They're fun to do sometimes. G2 finished second in this group. They can no longer get Splice. They can no longer get, assuming SKT continues this dominance, RNG, which is a blessing a little bit because RNG looks scary. They can no longer get the second place team of IGTL and Damwon. That group is still completely up in the air. But instead, they are going to get Fun Plus Phoenix, who I think grossly underperformed at Group B, and I think that you saw in the last 2 games of Fun Plus Phoenix what Fun Plus Phoenix can be. And I think they destroyed J-Team, and they destroyed Splice as well. Both of those teams beat them before. And Fun Plus Phoenix lost half the amount of games in that group than they did all season, given 31 games. So I think it was a little bit of a wake-up call. I think Fun Plus Phoenix were kind of nervous, and I think that is going to help them regroup and kind of feel better going into a best of 5. So you have to do a Fun Plus Phoenix. If you had to pick between Fun Plus Phoenix and Splice to play in a best of 5, you're taking Fun Plus Phoenix 100 times out of 100, no matter what. You're never taking Splice in any scenario, or you're a liar, or you're just an EU fanboy or something that you really are biased. Next, we have SKT, RNG, and Fnatic. Depending on a Fnatic miracle, I'm assuming this group is going to go SKT, RNG. like I originally predicted. I still had that prediction the exact same. I think that SKT is going to go 6-0. RNG is going to go 4-2. They look fantastic. They just don't look at the highest tier that SKT look at, because right now SKT look like the best team in the tournament. I still have FunPlus Phoenix as the second best team in the tournament. You could argue that Griffin skyrocketed up there as well, but but I'm not going to skyrocket them all the way up there yet, because I originally had them the eighth best team going into this tournament. But they are proven that this is regular season Griffin for sure. But yeah, so you have SKT and FunPlus Phoenix, the number one and number two seeds or best teams going into the tournament or in at the tournament currently, and you have a 66% chance to get one of them as the second seed. Instead, you could have had RNG or Splice. RNG is a damn hard group as well, or team as well, very hard team, but Splice very manageable compared to the rest of these teams. And then between Team Liquid, IG, and Damwon, I think they're all the exact same skill level. I've talked about this before. They're all choose if you had a three-headed or three-sided dice or a three-headed coin. You can't do a three-headed coin, but I guess there's no three-sided dice either. It only goes to four-sided. Anyway, if you had to pick between three teams, just 50-50-50 in a triangle, like this is the three teams. I've had them even originally. I had IG 6, Team Liquid 7, Damwon 9. I think that is very valid so far, and I think that yeah, there's nothing. I think Griffin has skyrocketed. If I had to pick, SKT's moved up to 1, FunPlus Phoenix 2, Griffin 3, RNG 4, G2 5, and then IG, Team Liquid, and Damwon 6, 7, 8, and then Splice at 9. And that's the only teams remaining. And then, no, I missed Fnatic in there. I'd probably put Fnatic 9, Splice 10, and then CG 11, and what's their names? 12, HQ 12. So those would probably be my current power rankings at the moment. So ignoring CG and AHQ because they're not going to get anywhere. Sorry. So out of the top 10 teams remaining, Splice is probably the 10th best team out of that. Though the way Fnatic is playing, if Fnatic plays as bad as they do in week 2 as they did in week 1, I will absolutely move Splice ahead of Fnatic, because Fnatic, for as much as the fans will probably complain, if Fnatic Fnatic takes a game off of RNG, and that's all they do. They go 3-3 in the group, and RNG goes 3-3 and wins the tiebreaker over them. Okay, like that sucks. Fnatic fans will and say Fnatic doesn't really improve at all. They look bad and they almost lose the clutch again. They get destroyed to SKT again, and they play a very close game against RNG and actually pull out a victory. I still don't think Fnatic deserves it as much as Splice, because Splice stepped up consistently. Oops, I didn't realize I was still on channel. Hey, Brock with the special guest appearance on the podcast. We're almost done with it.
What are we doing?
I'm on the podcast right now. I'm just talking about how Splice has performed phenomenally so far, and I would put them higher ranked than Fnatic if Fnatic performs badly again in week 3. And that fans shouldn't complain as much because of the difference in groups, because Fnatic played terribly in the first week.
Yeah, I don't think Fnatic's going to do very well.
Yeah, they have to really step. They showed literally nothing, and I still stand by. I said this multiple times. If Huni doesn't rocket jump 7 times in a row, Clutch beat Fnatic in that game.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, there's no way. But like so realistically, Fnatic should be 0-3 going into this week. That's how poor they've played. But yeah,
they're getting the C9 treatment. Yeah. Their ADC's putting Reckless on a mage for some reason.
So yeah, actually we can go right into predictions real quick, and then we can have Brock with his special guest predictions, and then I will be down to do whatever you came in here to do. Yeah. I was so late to the podcast today. I was like, oh crap, I kind of forgot. And I'm like, it is World, so I have to still do this. Like it was like 11:55. I'm like, I still have to do this podcast, because I've talked about before how I hate doing podcasts on Friday. So like it's so much. It's like when Lars and all them like actually have time like to do stuff. Yeah. They don't go to bed at 8 p.m. So I like to stay up and actually do stuff instead of this. But yeah. So game 1, SKT versus RNG.
I think it's an easy pick when SKT involved.
Yeah, I agree. I think why am I doing over here? They should be over here. But SKT, I think, is the best team in the tournament at the moment. Before today I would have put G2 as second. Now I have a FunPlus Phoenix back up to second. I have Griffin at third. I've skyrocketed them all the way from 8th to 3rd. It was a fantastic day by Griffin. Yeah, but I think SKT, it's going to be close. I think Royal Never Give Up is the 4th there as well. Like, I have them high up there as well. But SKT has just looked unbeatable, and Faker has looked amazing so far. I'm so
Yeah.
disappointed with myself. Because hear me out, with the stats from LCK this year, the stats coming in, Faker was the third best mid laner coming in from the three teams from Korea. From
Mhm.
stats and how he looked in the play. He looked good. Like they all look great, it's Chovy, Showmaker, and Faker, obviously. That's elite level. But then he comes into Worlds and like has barely died so far and is just taking over games. I'm like, oh. Like I think Brian mentioned it. He said like it's basically Tiger Woods.
Pretty much. And he's also playing stuff like Tristana and owning them.
Yeah, exactly. So I regret my decision to put him as the 15th best player coming in and the worst of the three LCK mid laners. Big regrets. Clutch versus Fnatic.
Hmm.
It's possible, apparently.
I mean, at one point I would have said Fnatic should easily win,
Yeah.
but I would, for the sake of how the two teams have been playing, I would.
Fnatic still?
No, I would say Clutch.
Ooh, Brock going with Clutch. I'm going to say Fnatic. They're going to step up. Oops, I literally put you as Fnatic. I'm a liar. I think they're going to step up much better in week 2. They have to, right? I mean, this team almost took down G2. Like, they have to be able to step up past Clutch. If they don't and they lose the Clutch, their season's over at that point already. I actually don't think it's still technically possible, but, like, at that point. You have your if you lose the Clutch, you have that tilt level of you just lost the Clutch, and you have to go in the next game 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later against SKT.
Yeah. I want to see Fnatic like in this game against Clutch. I think is a perfect game to do it because it's not SKT or RNG for Fnatic playing against. I want to see Fnatic pull a splice, go late game, and give Reckless Sivir.
Yeah, just do it.
Yep, that's what I would like to see. I mean, you at this point,
I mean, the tournament's
you got
going
to do
late game.
something. Yeah, exactly. You got to do something.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you have SKT over Fnatic if you have Clutch over Fnatic in the next game.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I actually have Fnatic going 0-3.
0-3 on the day. Interesting.
Yep.
So Clutch versus Royal Never Give Up.
I think that's a pretty consecutive RNG.
Yeah. But how about Clutch versus SKT?
It's pretty easy pick on SKT.
Yeah, I'm in the boat where Clutch is going 0-6 in this group. I had this group perfect so far. It's like my group A that was perfect up until the tiebreaker for my. I was so happy when Griffin won that first game because I'm like, boom, pre-group prediction, flawless. Hit every single. I had G2 5-1, Griffin 5-1, C9 2-4, HKA 0-6. Like, got it. Perfect. Just need G2 to win this tiebreaker because I put him in first, and that is more important because it's also in my pick'ems.
Yep.
Did not happen. And
I mean, the way it's going, the only team I think Clutch has a chance of beating is Fnatic.
Oh.
And that's if Fnatic don't if Fnatic play late and give Reckless Sivir. I want to see Reckless on Sivir. It's a very good comfort pick, and it's a late game pick.
Yeah, I think,
and it's also Clutch.
I've talked to Ryan about this extensively. I wonder if you agree with us. We think, obviously we have no proof of this. We're conspiracy theorists. Do you think Fnatic and C9 were scrim partners because they are the only two people that really only focused on the Mage's bot lane?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, how much are you going to do in scrims? Because you're not going to play your comps in scrims, and you're also not going to play out of your mind in scrims. What I personally think happens in scrims is someone like G2 going against Cloud9 or whatever going against Cloud9 is doing troll shit or troll stuff, and is Cloud9 is winning off of scrims. And I think they're taking that into Worlds because of that.
Okay.
And it's backfiring.
Yeah. We had thought because they were the only two teams really focusing so heavy on the Mage's bot lane that Mage's bot lane were winning, and they were like main scrim partners, and Mage's bot lane were winning in a lot of those, but no one else is really focusing on that too much. And
it could be.
Because of that, they both came in with a very poor meta read on the first week and completely threw away 3 games, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that very well could be the case. But for me, it's like, it's either that or someone's trolling in scrims and Cloud9 and Fnatic are getting wins off of it,
Hmm.
and they think it's going to carry over.
It has not so far.
No.
So, but yeah, you also said RNG for Fnatic. I agree. Over Fnatic, I agree with that for the last
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
My picks is this time I will be streaming it because this group has a lot more spice to it for a bit. It's not like today's where the group stage was essentially over by game one. It
Yeah.
got spicy at the end with Griffin beating G2 and forcing the tiebreaker there, but the 4 games in between that were completely pointless for the most part.
The
And
real spicy part happened after when they interviewed Sneaky.
dude, he seemed kind of pissed. Like
Yeah.
he was
Ju-
not. I legitimately think he was not happy with the team and the coaching.
no. And just so we don't have to go back and, I mean, we're still going to try to go back and find it. I said
We
in
gotta
week
get the proof.
one,
We gotta get the
yeah,
proof
we got to find the proof. But I said somewhere in week one or
of
before week
spring.
one, yeah, of spring, that Sneaky was retiring after this season.
It's
So
like,
now it's just a waiting. That's they've played. They chose not to play Vince Garen when they should have played Vince Garen, and also definitely got stage time and a win in the last game.
mhm. I know there's not
So
too many people. I mean, we have a few people listening, but 41 minutes in, I don't know how many. There's probably only a handful of you. If you want to try and search for that in the LCS podcasts, like I gotta go find that. If you send me a timestamp of when Brock's, I guarantee it was like week 1 or week 2 of the LCS podcast in the spring. I'm pretty sure. If you find a timestamp of that, send it in the comments, and I will pay you.
we'll get you a.
I will give you like $50 in riot points if you find that for me, so I don't have to do that. So if I see it, we'll get in contact and you will get $50 in riot points.
I'm gonna
Because
find it.
regardless, if you don't, that is fine. I'm still gonna have to look for it eventually. I just don't want
Yeah.
to do that. That's a lot of work. It's somewhere in the spring. I'm pretty sure it's between week 1 or 2, but it could be a little later. Hopefully not. But it's sometime in spring where Brock made that prediction, and I need to get it. I need to get it ready. I need to make a clip of it, edit it, and have it all set and ready for the moment if Sneaky announces a retirement. Boom! Like an hour later, just Sneaky's retirement predicted back in January by amazing analyst Brock.
We're gonna be YouTube famous.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But at the end of the day, those are the picks. I will be streaming these ones because, like I said before, these ones are gonna stay interesting more than one game. Like the fact that I woke up 5 minutes before C9 game started, like literally I was like half asleep during the first part, and then the game ended. And I'm technically had only woken up 25 minutes because it was only like a 20-minute game. I was up for like essentially a half hour by the time it was over, and by that being over, the group was over. I'm like I'm still tired. It's not fun anymore, so I won't be like talkative or like excited about anything because these next 4 group games are literally pointless. Like I'm just not gonna stream it. So tomorrow we will stream it, and those picks again are subject to change, depending on if I see RNG take down SKT at the beginning. I guess I have RNG all the way through anyway. But if I have Fnatic take down SKT perchance, and like after taking down Clutch, they go down and take SKT, I'm probably gonna pick Fnatic over RNG, depending on how that looks as well. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So that's subject to change. But for the most part, I think this group should be pretty similar, unless Fnatic has a massive improvement. But yeah, that should be everything for today's podcast, I would say. Thank you for the surprise appearance, Brock. I know you didn't expect it.
Hey, we still did it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm still at Discord when I heard the little noise because I was in here with Lars. That he went to go watch a movie. I'm like, I guess I can do the podcast now. But yeah, that will be it. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. Remember, $50 if you find that clip. I will absolutely make that a reality for you if you give me a timestamp. Anyway, see you guys.